Gamers, today we're going to be talking about my honest opinion about the Chinese civilization. We got a couple of more of these to go. If you're interested about any of the other ones, I have pretty much my honest opinion about every single civilization included with some gameplay on YouTube. I think it's like 3 games per video, and then me giving my opinion. And the only ones that I've left are Malians and Ottomans after this. I've done the new civs, I've done the other old civs, so there it is. So we got the Chinese. So where's the Chinese right now? Where does it hold up in the meta? And what are the strengths, the weaknesses, and everything else? I'll start by saying that I love playing Chinese Civ. I think it's still a really good Civ. I feel like it always had its place in the meta at the top level. You know, it was either used on land maps, it was either used on like campy maps, or it was used on water maps. Now recently China has received a nerf on water. They received minus 10% production speed from the docks. So I'm pretty sure their fishing ships are now producing like 1 to, I don't know, 3 seconds slower. I don't know what the numbers are exactly. Same with their fighting ships, which is a small nerf, but I still think we will see China plenty of like Boulder Bay, Mediterranean, Holy Island, you know, maps like that. Now, regarding where China is played on, there's been people testing with China on like hybrid maps, like Golden Heights or like Himayama or Mongolian Heights. People have played it in the past, long time ago. But I feel like right now, there's just better civs for that, and China is not really played on those maps. But if you're playing on maps like Altai or, some of the more campy maps, I guess, is the way to go. Like maybe Golden Pit, Hill and Dale, any of the big water maps, China is still great. And you can still play China on like Dry Arabia or Cliffside, you know, stuff like that. It doesn't really suffer as some of the other civs if you play it there, because you have Barbican, so you can actually protect yourself very early on. I'll first compare the difference as of right now between China and Jushi's Legacy. Obviously, Jushi's Legacy was considered like the best civ, and then it received like multiple nerfs. So where do they stand right now? I think that Jushi's Legacy still has better economy than China. They have Meditation Gardens, which is nerfed, but it's still about 75 to 125 resources per minute that you're getting. So already they have that over China. China does get Imperial Academy, where they can produce the Imperial officials, and they're cheaper. They're like 70 food, 35 gold, I think. So that's nice, but basically, China and Jushi Legacy. Jushi is more, is faster booming economy version of China. And usually, Jushi Legacy can also transition to like farms a lot faster because of the Song Dynasty that reduces the cost of the farms. And you should look at it like Jushi Legacy is stronger economy early on, but they can outmass China as far as the unit count goes. Like they can overwhelm the enemy with Palace Guards a lot easier, and they have less chance of running out of food on the map. Whereas China is more food dependent, as in they have harder time transitioning to farms, so you kind of need to get the food on the map, or you're going to need to transition to farms super early, and they're pretty expensive. So where does the China strength lie in? If all these things are better for Jushi's Legacy? Well, the strength between those two lies in that China has way better siege. The Clockwork Tower, 50% bonus HP, especially with the recent Springald nerfs, is even better for China. So China indirectly received a small buff. Instead of now Clockwork Bombards taking 3 Springald shots to kill, they take 4. That's obviously very good. And whenever you match Jushi against China, it always comes down to, can China defend and survive until the mass Palace Guards from each side is like happening, and then protect their nest of bees, while Jushi has a faster farm transition and they can still overwhelm with Palace Guards. So if you're wondering which one you should play, basically China is a bit slower, more oriented towards siege, protecting siege, slowly pushing out on the map, slower economy, but in my opinion overall stronger, because China has hand cannoneers and Jushi Legacy does not. And that's massive because Chinese hand cannoneers are extremely strong. So mobile versus immobile, whatever you prefer. Now, what are some of the strengths and weaknesses of China? I think the strength of China is water maps, and China is a civ that benefits greatly from its spawn. So there are some civs in AOE4 that, depending what kind of spawn you have, the game will be a lot harder or a lot easier for you. So you need to adjust with China. You cannot just follow a build order blindly and hope it works. You need to, adjust. Barbican placement is extremely important, and it can be difference between you losing or winning the game. So sometimes you have a really good Barbican or like deer plus boar. Sometimes you don't have it, so you have to kind of improvise a little bit, try to make the best out of it. So yeah, sometimes it feels like China is like an S tier civ, and sometimes it feels it's like a D tier because you got a crap spawn. But if you enjoy adjusting in the moment and making the best out of it, then China is pretty good for that. And even with all of that, I think China is pretty strong civ, because even if you get a bad spawn, you can kind of negate some of that with the Barbican and protect your resources pretty well. What is the weakness of China? Well, it takes a bit to kind of build up. It takes a bit to get the economy going. And if you are playing in feudal, China is great because of the Zuginus, which are very, very strong. You have a lot of passive gold as China, which is very, very strong because of taxes. But the problem is, China in feudal, great. But if you get into prolonged feudal, where you're just constantly fighting and the enemy is having the map control because you have all infantry units, there is a chance that you just run out of food completely, and then transitioning to farms is going to be painful, and that's kind of their weak point. And I think because you also produce villagers faster, while that's great, it's also draining your food a lot faster compared to some of the other civs that you need to get adjusted to. And the fact that you're going like 99.9% of the time, you're not going into horsemen or knights, you're sticking with spearmen, Zuginu, crossbow, palace guards, and then siege. That means that your army comp is a lot slower, so if you get caught off guard or something, you can pretty much lose the game. Where, other civs can have a lot more say in how the battles are happening and stuff like that. So I think China in feudal is pretty good. China used to be considered very bad in feudal age, but we discovered, you can just mass Zuginu, and even if your opponent ages up to castle, you can just kill everything with Zuginu. So that's great. I do think China is very hard to play, so maybe that's one of their, downsides. It is being picked at a high level in tournaments again, even on maps like Dry Arabia, where before no one was like touching China there. It's just like, oh, it's too open, we can't do it. People have kind of, like I said, learned, and you see China being played on Dry Arabia or Cliffside or more open map. Castle for China, I would say, is pretty good. You get access to Palace Guards and STVs. And Palace Guards, even though they're infantry, they can be used as a raiding unit, where you can go around the map and harass your opponent and stuff like that, which is also great. And then in Imperial, obviously China is very, very strong because they have Palace Guards, they have strong siege, they have hand cannoneers, they have fire lancers. So they got plenty of tools to work with, and obviously the taxes are, like I said, very, very strong all the way through. Like, they give you so much passive gold. I feel like it's very underrated. Like, when people talk about passive gold, no one ever mentions China or Jushi's legacy taxes income, but it gives a lot of gold. So yeah, regarding the matchups, or actually regarding the changes first, what I would change for China, honestly, I don't know. I think China is a pretty unique civ. I feel like it has what it needs in the current metagame. Obviously this might change in the future. Their siege is incredibly strong, but it's one of those things where their siege is so much stronger than other civs, but maybe they need it, kind of thing, because their economy is slower than other civs. They can't take control of the map, so maybe that's okay because of that. I'm not sure, but I'm assuming in the future we will be seeing more China in tournaments on pretty much every map, and I don't really know what I would change. I don't think it's like overpowered, but I definitely don't think it's a weak civ or anything like that. So yeah, regarding matchups, I would say China does usually pretty well into any aggressive civs because of the Barbican. If you just make units and the opponent makes units, and then you have a Barbican, and you also have a town center that shoots hand cannon, whatever attack is called, and then your towers also do the same. it makes it a lot easier to defend against any, you know, cavalry civs. It's very good against Delhi. I would say the civs that I personally had issues with when I played China, where it feels really, or not really, but pretty rough, I would say, is probably going to be English HRE. I'm not sure about Order of the Dragon, but English and HRE for sure. Maybe a civ like Ayubid would be pretty decent into China. Not sure. And also I think Byzantine is pretty decent into China. Some of the castle rushing civs are good into China because China takes a bit to get to castle, and then once China does, usually the relics are all picked up, and civs like Holy Roman Empire that can quickly age up and then proceed to go to Swabia and then print out villagers is very good to not only take the relics but also catch up with villagers pretty fast. Ayubid, I think, is pretty good into China because they can also rush castle, age up, get the relics, do a little bit of harassment, and then when Nest of Beast comes out, Ayubid can immediately make Springles on the field, so it makes for a little good interaction there for them. Now, regarding civs that China absolutely demolishes, in my opinion, I would probably have to say Delhi and Ottoman. Ottoman, one of the worst matchups for Ottoman is China, actually, and this has always been the case, but you don't really see China being played on the maps that Ottoman does in the past, so they haven't had a lot of interaction. But basically, if Ottoman attacks in feudal, Zuginu can kill everything without a problem, and then if Ottoman rushes castle, China just has 2 TC and is going to have so much economy in units that it won't matter. So I would say China against Delhi, China against Ottoman, maybe Malian if played correctly, but in general, I would say it's all around, you know, decent civ, doesn't have any major counters to the point where it's a free win for the enemy. I would say Delhi versus China is pretty good for China. So I think going into the future, I think China is just going to remain probably the same civilization that it is right now. So if you enjoy that kind of play style, I would say commit to it. I'd say it's very unique. It's already got a play style that is, I think, pretty interesting and overall pretty good. So thumbs up. There it is. If you're watching this on YouTube, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate y'all. Check them out on Twitch. I'm probably live right now. Again, we got 2 more videos. One is my opinion about Malians and Ottochads. And that's it. Twitch gamers, let's keep going.